It's 6:02. And just read Governor Baker's open meeting law. This open meeting is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings at a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted to the town's website, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded, so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. So for this meeting, since we're remote, I will do a roll call and make sure you can all hear me. So Beth.
Here.
Julie.
Here.
Andy.
Here.
Lisa.
Here.
John.
Here.
And Mark and Ron. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All right. So Lisa, do you want to, we did the minutes before, right? And so does somebody want to make a motion to approve those, or if anybody has any questions or comments on them?
Move to accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay, any questions regarding it? Comments? Okay, hearing none. Beth,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Andy.
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mary, aye. Declare the motion carried. Okay, any bills? No
Nope.
bills. Let's move on. Any more change orders, Mark?
So nothing formal, but if you remember the last time we met, after some discussion, we approved a roughly a $30,000, $31,000 change order for the aluminum doors and frames within the community room, the kitchen area, and then the teens room. And then almost immediately upon approving that, we unapproved it because there's some angst about that, the whole discussion and how it went down, because at the time, CTA's proposal was only good through the end of October. And we were meeting, within a couple of days of that. And so there was a certain pressure to approve that. So we tabled that knowing that CTA's price could go up if we went back to them and looked at other options. So Ron, you can jump in if I get any of this wrong, but Ron jumped into with an Anderson rep, looking at a sliding door option, kind of vetted that, but that was getting away from us cost-wise, and it wasn't a good fit because it was the exterior door application within, on the inside of a building, and it wasn't cost-effective and didn't make sense for a couple of reasons. And so we looked at a couple different options and ended up with a hollow metal frame version of the aluminum frame version that you approved last month. So basically, it's very similar. It's not exactly the same because there are limitations with the hollow metal. But essentially, you have a hollow metal frame like the metal door frames that are throughout the library. And so we asked, we vetted that design. Beth was good with the design, and we went back to CTA and said, "Could you price this up for us?" So he doesn't have final numbers, but he has approximate numbers. And this is just as of 90 minutes ago when we had our regular Monday meeting. The cost for the door and the frame material only is roughly $18,000 to $20,000. Then he has to buy the glazing for that, and then he has to install everything, and then we have to paint everything. So if you're at $20,000 with most of, but not all of the material, and these are two good size openings, and then you're installing everything. If it's $3,000 to $5,000 per opening to install, which is a pair of people, 3 or 4 days per opening to install, which seems reasonable. we're headed right back to that 30,000-ish number. So then the discussion becomes, and again, I don't have this formal proposal, but I was trying to get Matt from CTA to give me something so that we can discuss this tonight. So then we're talking about two proposals that are roughly the same. We'll get the final numbers on this, but it's headed toward this $31,000 number. So then it becomes an aesthetic and maybe a timing issue. So I'd like to find out with the board or with Beth, is there if the cost is roughly the same, is there an aesthetic preference to the aluminum frame version or the hollow metal frame version? Knowing that the two biggest differentiators are with the aluminum frame version, we're talking about one subcontractor, Chandler Architectural, who did the work at the library. They would have everything, soup to nuts, the doors, the hardware, the glazing, the frames, it's all under their umbrella. If we went the hollow metal version, you're talking 3 to 4 different subcontractors. The aluminum, the hollow metal supplier, the door and hardware supplier, the installer, the glazer, the painter. And the lead time for those 4 or 5 components is roughly 22 weeks for that hollow metal version. So from a cleanliness, quote unquote, standpoint, the aluminum version would be preferred, but I'm wondering if there is any, oh, and I should say, we went back to Chandler just this afternoon through CTA and said, hey, that number that you gave us a month ago, is it still valid today? And the answer was yes. So they'll still honor that number that we approved and then unapproved last month. So I'd like to get a sense if we can vote on this tonight, if you're comfortable, and push us in one direction or the other, the hollow metal direction or the aluminum direction, because this is really the only thing that hasn't been released that's not under production for the library. Everything else, the controls related work, we've got that on the run. I think work is being done. Issues are being addressed. The humidifier, the same thing. This is the only one that's standing still. So we need to collectively act on this one. Yep.
Okay.
Who would manage it?
Okay, my first question would be, one of the reasons we were uncomfortable about it was because we were under the gun and everything was more expensive, and CTA is not doing anything, yet they get to put their profit in overhead. Would
Right.
The aluminum door vendor, would he do that for the town, since we've taken it out of the hands of CTA? And so then it could be less money.
You could, but I would imagine if we did that, you'd have to bid that work out. What makes it nice is going through CTA, going through the change order, is you avoid that. You avoid the public bidding process. But if this is a $30,000 value, then you're going to have to publicly bid that. Not that that's the end of the world, and we could get local bids and Chandler could bid on it as well. There's a value with CTA kind of being on the hook, so to speak, to coordinate this. It would really be, Chandler would be doing everything, but it would be under CTA's guidance. So if you took CTA out of the picture, you'd have to insert me or Ron or William or a combination thereof to kind of shepherd this thing home, which is
Right,
again,
but yeah, honestly, that's how I thought it was going to go, because it was taken out of the contract and it was essentially taken out of our hands by not voting for the other one.
so I'm sure CTA they jump up and down and say, yes, that's the way
I
they'd
get
like to
you.
go.
Okay.
So either way, I don't think, certainly we do a ton of work with Chandler, and I could work with them directly to get this thing going. The only issue would be, again, we'd have to go back to William and we'd have to put this out to bid, or at least ask for 3 bids.
Okay. Andy?
I have a couple questions. I just wanted to confirm which direction is which. So the previous metal versions, we would only need Chandler to accomplish, versus the new hollow frame aluminum is what would require multiple contractors.
Correct. And the first version was all aluminum and it would look like the lobby system, that type of doors. This new one is hollow metal, which would look like the doors that go into like the mechanical, electrical rooms and so forth. It's just a different frame profile, but that would be a mix of 4 or 5 subs versus the other one, Chandler. They do all of that.
Now,
It would look like what John is sitting in front of. If you look at the wall behind John.
Right.
That's the hollow metal system.
now, because we hadn't moved forward with that, what's the lead time on that first system?
Let me see if I have that from last time. I don't, Andy. I can find out. I don't have that in my notes from the last meeting, so I'll find out from Chandler. We reached out to them real quickly and said, hey, we've got this meeting tonight. Can you find out if they'll still honor the number? The answer was yes, but I didn't get the time, so I'll find that out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Questions? Does anybody have any thoughts?
Yeah, what are the procurement regulations like for the town as far as, can they write a PO for 30,000? Like, I don't know what the limit is where they have to start bidding. Is it a really low number?
Yeah,
Like-
it used to be over 10. I don't know what it is.
Is it still
no.
at 10?
Yeah, I think you have to ask for, you don't necessarily have to get 3 bids, but you have to ask 3 different
Yes,
people.
so now,
Right.
okay, so it's the same as what we have now
Yeah,
at my school. So yeah,
Yep.
you ask for 3 bids and then
But do we have to do
hopefully
that
you get,
in our current situation if we chose the first path? Or would we just do that as a change?
You do if we want to collectively pull it out of CTA's contract, kind of release CTA and say we're gonna do this on our own in order to save the markup that CTA gets. Or we keep it within the contract, knowing that we're paying CTA's markup, but acknowledging that there's a value to that because it's CTA's problem, not our problem, and they'll manage everything.
Sorry.
Mark, are we paying a whole lot more because hollow metal frame door is a lot less than a solid aluminum storefront door? So is it because it's nth hour? Again, are we against the wall again because of that?
I don't think so. One of the things that Matt walked us through today, Matt from CTA, was that, so these are big frames, big openings. And so we can't get a custom frame that's that big. So it's going to come in pieces. And then those pieces are going to have to be welded together in the field. And so versus the aluminum, we can get a frame that's that big. And Chandler will fabricate those loose pieces and put it all together at the site. The hollow metal is it's a more cumbersome, it's less expensive material wise, but I think it's more expensive installation wise because of the welding. And then they're going to have to patch everything that they weld. And so it's more cumbersome. It should be, if it was a 3-foot by 8-foot door and a hollow metal, frame versus aluminum frame, hollow metal would cost 5 times less. But this is a giant custom frame. And so when you add everything in, we end up back to where we started.
and that was a huge lead time, 22 weeks.
22 weeks. And those are for the wood doors.
Okay.
That was the longest of the lead times. The glazing was a few weeks. The wood doors were 22 weeks. So
If we do I'm sorry, I'm interrupted. The Conair, is that what we're going to be doing for the aluminum system?
Yep.
Are they aluminum doors at that point or are they wood doors?
It would be all one system.
Okay.
all aluminum. But I have to
Alright.
find out with Andy, I have to find out the lead time on all those components just to make sure we're talking apples to
I
apples.
think it was like 8 or 10 weeks the last time I did it.
Right.
What is the CTA markup? Like, what are we talking about here for a savings? Because that's what it comes down to, right? Like,
Mhm.
what are we paying for the convenience and the time?
I think it was, I don't have the proposal in front of me. I think it was like $1,500, something like that.
Oh, my gosh. All right, then
So-
I'm ready to move forward then.
Yeah, but I think it was important to go through this exercise though,
Yeah.
only because the, it's a lot of money on that and on those doors. And it's hard to fathom that we're at this point when the library's been open 16 months and now we're going through this and our backs are against the wall. And
Right.
I felt really uncomfortable about everybody voting that time. And we're just like, okay, because we have to type of deal. So I think it was important to go through it. It sounds like the aluminum doors would be a whole lot more than a hollow metal frame, but since we have to go through all the other trades to get that complete, it doesn't make sense. But so we lost a couple weeks, but you know, why are we even here at 16 months after the library's been open that we're going through
Right.
this? But that's
Well-
where we're at. So
At least ETA is honoring that other price too.
correct.
Right.
I'm glad we
Okay.
did it, Mary. I hope I didn't come off like that. I'm glad we did.
No,
it.
I
We
didn't
had
know
to
it was
squeeze every
1,500
penny.
either. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I just thought it was important to do our due diligence and understand it better. And I think I understand it now since you've given me different options. Where before it was just, you gotta go with this aluminum
Right.
storefront. So, okay, if somebody wants to make a motion then for that.
I'll make a motion if I know what I'm making a motion for. I'm making a motion to go with the original doors at the original price with CTA. Is that
Yeah,
a
what was
motion?
What is that? What was that amount, Mark? What was that change order?
Was it $29,378.96?
Yes.
Okay, so I make a motion to pay CTA the amount of $29,378.96 to get the Makerspace Community Room doors done.
Second,
Okay, vote by roll call. Beth,
aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Andy,
I,
Lisa,
Aye.
John,
I,
and Mary. Aye. Declare the motion carried. Any others? Anything else, Mark, we need to?
No, that's it. The only other thing, it's not a change order. Well, it'll be a cost. If you remember the humidifier in the historical room, we took that out of CTA's contract. We found a design that works. Ron is working with the engineer. We're just waiting to get the specification from the engineer so that William can order the equipment. So the design is done, the location is done, the sizing is done. And so again, we've got that on the run. We just haven't released it yet.
Oh, all right. Andy?
and that new design includes a new unit. We're returning the former unit and crediting that. Or the new design is using the current unit.
New design is for a new unit. We've got a bonus unit for the town of Grafton that we can use somewhere, but it's too big to use in the historical room.
Thank you.
Ron, do you have anything?
Not in relation to that. The other thing, we have the mill workers starting a week from today for the ADA cabinet reconfiguration, the counters and whatnot that has to be reconfigured for ADA. So he's starting a week from today. We were supposed to get a schedule from William as to what areas he should, the sequencing of what areas should be worked on. We haven't received that, but and William is on vacation this week. So if we can't get that information, what we'd like to do is just pick a simple place for them to start, like the computer counters up on the second floor. It doesn't take a lot of planning and coordination as opposed to doing the office or the cafe or any of the other spaces. It's a pretty quick, simple hit. and at least get them started on those and get them moving. Andy, did you have a question?
Sorry, just want to make sure I'm understanding it properly. Is there a reason we'd have William prioritize where we start as opposed to having Beth do that?
Beth, you want to answer that?
I am not the clerk of the works on this project, and I have taken on the clerk of the works role for a year and a half, and I cannot get my own work done. So I asked William what I should drop from my job to do a schedule when he could look at the library calendar and come up with a plan. And he said, I'll do it. And he has not. So I'm going to end up doing it. But yeah.
But is this like a full clerk? I understand that aspect of it. I'm not trying to add on to your plate, but is this a full clerk of the works ask, or is this simply prioritizing a list of?
It's look at the calendar, figure out when there are meetings, and then organize the work around the meeting schedule.
Okay.
So yeah, it doesn't require library expertise in any way. Yeah. So I asked him to take it on, and he said he would, and he did not. So.
Thanks.
Yep.
The only other thing, as part of the ADA review, there was a sign needed out on the original entrance, the west entrance, directing people to the ADA compliant entrance, the new entrance at the east. That had been taken out of CTA's contract. They gave us a credit for it. They took it out and gave us a credit for it, or gave you a credit for it. It still needs to be fabricated, and we have a design. I'm going to share my screen. That was, can the host allow sharing? Thank you. Okay. John, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me get you guys out of there. This was the design we presented. And correct me if I'm wrong, this was approved by the Historic District Commission.
The screen?
I'm
Oh, sorry, I'm having to get real close up. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
This is a wayside. I was expecting a flat piece of.
Well, I have an option. This is what was reviewed and approved. So the map would be up here, and this would be at a slant. And the text on the front would say, directions to accessible entrance. What would be simpler to fabricate and less expensive would be to turn it into a flat sign. So this is the side view. You'd see a post on each side. If you can see my cursor. This is the ground plane. Before I go any further, this is the ground. So these are the posts extending below ground to support it. You'd have a flat panel instead of a slanted panel. It would have the same map, same text. And instead of having the side support panels, you would have one panel in the middle with the same design. So it would all be, wrought iron. It's just a simpler, easier to fabricate, which means faster. Most likely less expensive because you aren't fabricating two of these panels. You're just doing this one stretcher in the middle. And also because it's vertical, I think it would be easier for someone to read as you're coming up to it in a wheelchair, because you're not looking over at a slanted map. The map is vertical and you're just, it's basically at eye level. So I wanted to propose this. John, I know you would need to review this.
Right, this would have to be submitted to the Historic District Commission to review and approve.
Okay,
And are there any graphics where it says flat panel with graphics? Because I think that would also be,
the graphic is just basically a mini version of the site plan. That says, you are here with a dashed line going down the sidewalk leading to the ADA. The east entrance, the new entrance.
and where is the proposed location for this?
This would be just to the left or right of the stairs leading to the west entrance. So you
Okay.
up the sidewalk into that little center place where you go into the west entrance. So it would be just off to the side of the entrance on the ground, not up on the landing.
And it looks like it's 3 feet underground and probably 4 feet above. Is that,
Roughly.
Roughly, yeah.
So I can clean this up because it says 31 inches above ground to here.
and like it's red, I mean, I'm colorblind, it looks red to me. What's the color of this?
Black.
Black.
It would be black wrought iron. The only reason I drew it in red is because I did this quickly on top of the original design. And I
Would it
wanted,
be that same green that they have? I believe the
sorry?
front door, the green that they have for the other sign that's on Upton Street, I believe. That and the front door, I mean, is color a big issue?
no, not in terms of ADA. The color is fairly up to library and HDC. I only black because the other existing wrought iron, the grates
Is
around
black.
Right.
black.
Okay, just because I know I'll have lots of questions, so I'm trying to think ahead of what they might ask.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, basically, this is almost a 2D version of the 3D version that was approved before. It's just kind of flattened out and simplified.
Okay, yeah, if you can get the dimensions and then email that to me and or Bill Nicholson, then we can take it up at the next meeting,
When is the next meeting?
the third Thursday.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like sometime, tomorrow or Wednesday.
No, I think. The 15th,
Okay. It's
week from this Thursday.
before 12:15. All right.
Is there something you need from this committee now? In order, say John comes back and says, yep, they're all set, they're good to go, so that you don't have to wait another 3 weeks to get this moving for our next meeting?
I think the only thing would be,
Go ahead.
if this committee is okay with this design, then Ron can follow it up with John and HTC, and if it gets approved, off we go. If there's a collective desire to stay with what was already approved, then we won't bother going down this route and we'll just keep going.
So 2 more questions. Why did they decide to pull this out of the contract? And how much money is there enough money to pay for this sign when it's within the new configuration?
We were working on the design of the sign and the contractor got tired of waiting and said, we're not going to do the work. They just took it out of the subcontractor took it out of their work.
So we got a credit for that, or?
Yes,
Yeah,
And how much is the credit?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Because I think that's, what if that first sign is $10,000 and this one's gonna be 15. You know, what, that to me is that we gonna have to come back to this committee to deal with, how are you gonna pay for it?
I would hope this would be less expensive than,
Right, but that's not been the case on anything we've done, so.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
everything costs them more every day passing.
Yeah.
Nice if it didn't.
Again, I find it hard for us to be able to vote on something that we only know half the answers to. We don't know the price. Do we know that the color should be black? Or should it, or should it be a different color? We don't know. I guess that would be up to the historical commission.
The district would, I mean, since he did say, because that does make sense, that the other wrought iron is black, but
Okay.
again, they may say, well, what about the other sign? What about the door? You know, it's like, what's different people have different opinions and reasons for wanting the different colors. So at least we have, that would be green or black, I would assume. I don't think there'd be any other color.
Okay. The only other question I would have is if it's out of the contract, is it something that we as a committee would be voting on?
That's a good point.
And the cost, if it's over, like you say, $10,000, we're gonna have to get bids on it.
This shouldn't be over $10,000. But in theory, Mary, you're correct. It's outside the contract. It's outside the building committee's purview.
Mhm.
So I mean, an easy thing to do, if people are, that issue aside, if people are fine with this revised design, we could certainly get pricing on it and then pursue it with HTC, and then we'd have, they've already approved the other one, we could, and if they approve this one, we'll have options. And then in the meantime, we can check to see what the credit was that we got to eliminate the original design while we pursue the cost for this one. And then it's just a buyout thing. It should be pretty straightforward to get somebody to do this.
So you are looking for us to approve it, even though it's outside of, like, I
Just from a
know,
design standpoint, if people really
Yeah.
don't like it, then there's no point in pursuing it.
gotcha, okay. Does somebody want to make a, Beth, could you put back the gallery?
All right, so I make a motion that we approve the design that the Historic Commission would like to see, as long as it doesn't exceed the amount that the credit is.
Second,
Any comments?
yes. At this point, I think we should wait. We're talking about roughly, what, like 3 weeks until HDC meets, and then 2 weeks that are gonna be mostly holidays before our next library building and planning committee. I think we should just wait on this issue, get the updated pricing, get HDC's input, and then make a decision at the January meeting.
yeah, I mean, basically, we're just looking for approval to move forward. In doing just that, sending it to HTC, getting pricing, and then making a decision from there.
So
Madam-
maybe we don't need a motion, and you just need to hear from each of us if we're okay with either design.
Right.
So I withdraw my motion.
I think it's worth it to just explore and find out what the pricing would be on that alternate.
Mhm.
But you have to present it for next week, so.
Right.
So if it gets approved there, then go ahead and get pricing and compare to the other. The other one looks like it would be more because of that, the 2 panels of wrought iron, I think would be more expensive.
Right.
So can I just withdraw my motion or do we need a vote to withdraw the motion?
You
There's
can
been no
withdraw it.
vote.
You can withdraw it and I'll withdraw my second.
Perfect.
Thank
I
you.
withdraw.
Thank
Withdraw my second.
Okay, thank you. So John, I'll get this to you, for the end of this week. That way, hopefully you can get it out in advance of your meeting.
I'll set to say, this is coming up, so put that on the agenda. So, and I'll give you this stuff as soon as I have it.
Very good.
Okay.
Ron,
Thank
can
you
I
for
just
your help.
ask you what the vinyl applied graphics are? Are you thinking like, what is that? It's a sheet that's applied, like for the
Yeah,
whole sign? Okay,
The map would be printed onto a vinyl adhesive sheet and
Okay.
adhered to this area here.
yep. No, I know.
Okay.
John, do you have anything to share? Historic District Commission?
More historical, that we met last month and discussed the good old weights and measures. And because of the concerns with the fire alarm where it is, the chairman of this historical commission said, oh, well, we were going to scoot it in the corner anyway, which is over about 3 feet. And there's a door that they created to put in the lift that's been closed up. So it's pretty much a blank wall. So I think my question was to Beth that A, is that acceptable? And B, I know that you wanted to have some kind of document or an agreement with the Library Board of Trustees before this gets moved. So we need to make sure that that location is okay, and what the status is of an agreement with the Library Board of Trustees.
You would need to schedule with them and get on the agenda. My biggest concern is it needs to be a temporary loan because we need that space to fulfill the building program and put in, at some point in the future, additional shelving for newspapers and magazines because it's a periodicals room. We also spent $600 to put an electrical outlet, not over in the corner, but in the location that you originally wanted it. And
Well,
there-
the location we wanted it, we were told we couldn't have way into the building program. So
Yeah.
that wasn't our fault. This isn't our fault where the second location is. So that's the concern. And we need to know, do we just cut bait? Because I don't want to get into a battle, but it's disappointing that this is a simple thing and it's become taken up a lot of time that it shouldn't be taken up.
Mhm. Yeah, you're welcome to request to be added to the agenda. I still do not want it in that room.
Well, I know you don't want it at all. No. So if you don't want it in that room, where do you want it?
There's no place to put it. There is no space. There's no space.
Okay, but that's curious because this was part of when we started and you designed the building, there
Mhm.
was this, and now there is no space. That's what I don't understand. We were
Yeah.
told long ago, then we could have saved everybody a lot of heartburn.
Oh, okay.
Okay, who's the person I need to talk to get on the library trustees agenda?
Debbie Jackson. I'll send you her email.
Okay, thanks.
And regarding the fire alarm device, how far off the wall are you? Would that be butted right up against the wall, the weight to measure?
Well,
Cabinet.
my concern is that if we get it moved over here and it's a smidgen it's literally, I don't know if it's 80 inches, whatever the numbers are. It's almost that number, a half an inch clearance. And if it's a little bit wrong, then it's going to create a problem. But from what the historical commission chairman said, that the fire department person said, if it clears it, it's okay. I mean, it was kind of a simple, as long as it's not blocking it in front, it was okay. My concern is that if it's blocking even the housing, that might make it illegal. And we don't want to move it only then turn around and move it back.
Well, you have, local jurisdiction could say, oh, you just blocked it off a tiny bit, but by code, you should be able to have it there. And as long as the strobe is visible,
Mhm.
then it's allowable. But local jurisdiction, has the last word. So you'd have to fight it. But code wise, as long as it's not, the strobe is not blocked off, you'd be okay.
Okay, because it's like, and that's, we don't want to move it and find out,
I hear you, yeah.
we're not happy.
I'll send you the code section, so you can just
Yeah.
at least have that in your pocket, and then you could talk to the fire department. And then do a good job at measuring your cabinet before it
I've
goes anywhere.
Measured it, and it's literally, it's a half an inch, and it's like, if the floor is just enough uneven that it's torqued, that I just don't want to, I just soon stop before we make things worse.
Okay. All right, does anybody else have anything else? Okay, well, so, Mark, it sounds like we're not gonna have a final pay rec.
No,
Next.
I asked Matt about that today, and he's just waiting till everything is done. He'll bill at the conclusion. So I think it'll be like this for a bit. Most of the retainage that's being held right now is mechanically driven, and a quick update. Beth was going through so many issues with the controls and lack of access and so forth. We think that has been resolved now. Part of the system was on cooling and it was locked out, and nobody can understand why. We were told there was a software change and that may have locked people out. But anyway, they got on a Zoom call, got Beth access. Things have been changed. I think we're in good shape. They're swapping out this distribution box, which is a warranty item. That should be done this week. And then I think all the controls related items, we should have, and I want to say done 100%, but I think we're going to be pretty close to that. And then we can, once we know it's up and running and signed off by the commissioning agent, there are a couple rooms that weren't independently controlled that recently were issues. And now that everything's been resolved, we have to revisit those rooms to see if there's still issues. And if they are, we can address them. If not, we know it was tied to the control snafu. So I think we're in pretty good shape there. And so back to your original question, he's not going to, maybe at the end of December, I could see him, if all the controls are done, he might invoice against that. But if the change order goes through for the aluminum door openings, that's going to be on the books for a couple of months anyway.
Okay, so we have a January 9th. Yeah, Andy, go ahead.
Did we get an update on the flood test for the roof?
Yes, good news and bad news. Good news, they did the flood test. Bad news, couldn't find the leak. And so again, that's good news because the roof is good, but it's kind of maddening because we know it leaked. It hasn't leaked in a bit and now we can't even make it leak. So we're just going to monitor it moving forward. We've removed it from the weekly meeting minutes because there's nothing left for us to do, but we know it might be an issue. And in the future, so if we get, the only times it's ever leaked has been a really crazy wind-driven storm, mix. And so if we get that again and it leaks again, then hopefully people will remember, oh, check the community room ceiling, see if it's leaking during one of those storms, and we can locate where it's coming from. But that being said, we've had a couple storms like that since it leaked and it hasn't. So hopefully it was an issue and isn't now.
And the leak at the cupola is all set too?
The leak at the cupola is the town has filed a claim, an insurance claim. It had nothing to do with this particular project. It was old flashing, copper flashing that had kind of failed. So that's being addressed. William is spearheading that one, and he's addressing that outside of this contract.
That's right. Okay, thanks. Okay, so we have a January 9th on the books for a meeting. Do you think we should make one the following month as well? Or should we kind of leave it to be determined because we may have to vote on a rec sooner than that?
No, I would do another one for February. Ideally, what's going to happen in January is there's nothing left to talk about. All the work is done. The controls are working. So you'd release a payment for that and everything in balance will be change order driven for these two door openings. And then we'll revisit that in February and just see where we are.
Okay, so January 9th would be the next one. February 7th would be the following. Somebody wants to check me on that? 6th?
6.
Okay, February 6th. Okay. Anybody have anything else?
So I make a motion at 6:48 to adjourn.
Second,
Great. Vote by roll call. Beth,
I,
Julie,
Aye.
Andy,
aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
John,
I
and Mary. Aye. Great. Thanks, guys.